When I stepped off the train, the sun felt softer than I remembered, but it did little to ease the knot in my stomach. One hand instinctively rested on my belly, still small but very real. I was 13 weeks pregnant, and coming home. I hadn't planned to be a mother this soon, or this way, but when the 2 pink lines appeared, and the nausea became more than morning inconvenience, I made a decision. I would keep the baby. Not out of obligation. Not even because Arif had said he'd support whatever I chose. But because somewhere deep inside I already loved this child. I had hope. Arif knew. At least I had told him. Over the phone right before I left the city. His silence had been unsettling. But I told myself he was in shock. Processing. He needed time. Still, as I approached the house with my suitcase and heart full of nerves, I expected to see him, waiting by the porch. Text. Something. But there was nothing. Not even a message saying, "Let me know when you arrive." The door opened and my mother's eyes froze the moment she saw me, then flicked downward. "What is this?" she whispered. I told her. I told all of them. My father stood up, speechless. My sister looked like she wanted to disappear. And my mother, she laughed. That cold, sharp laugh that sliced through me like broken glass. "Arif got you pregnant. And you thought you'd just come back like it's normal." She spat. I tried to explain. "He knows. We were going to." "Well, he's not here, is he?" she interrupted. "He didn't even bother to come." I didn't respond. Couldn't. 'Cause she was right. The hours that followed blurred together. Whispers, stares, slammed doors. I sat on the edge of my childhood bed, the sheets unchanged since I was 16, and realized something painful. I'd come back hoping for support. Hoping Arif would stand beside me. Hoping my family, even if confused or upset, would wrap me in warmth. Instead I was alone, carrying a life inside me. And feeling like mine had just ended. I walked in carrying a child, and lost everything else. I waited for Arif to call. I told myself he just needed a day. Maybe he was overwhelmed. Maybe my sudden return home and the pregnancy had caught him off guard. But one day became 2. Then 5. I messaged him again. "Please talk to me. I need to know what's going on." The message was never delivered. I checked his profile, gone. I tried to call. "This number is no longer in service." Panic twisted inside me like a knife. I asked a mutual friend if they'd heard from him. She hesitated before saying, "I think he's just busy. Probably sorting things out." He's been confused. Confused. I sat on my bed, phone clenched in my hand, heartbeat loud in my ears. I sent one last message, from a different account. Just 6 words. "Why are you doing this to me?" He never replied. But the silence didn't last. A few days later, while mindlessly scrolling, I found it. A photo on a friend's story. Arif. At a rooftop party. Grinning, holding champagne. Arms around a girl with perfect eyeliner and confidence to match. The caption read, "So happy for you too. What a beautiful couple, clinking glasses." I felt the air leave my lungs. I stared at the screen, willing it to be a mistake. Prank. A nightmare. But it was real. He had moved on. No, he had erased me. He had made sure I couldn't reach him, couldn't question him, couldn't remind him of the life he helped create. My mother's words rang in my head. He didn't even bother to come. They were right. All of them. In the eyes of my family, I had become a disgrace. A walking shame. My sister barely spoke to me anymore. My father avoided looking me in the eye. Meals became silent, cold affairs where the clink of cutlery was louder than conversation. My mother, always sharp-tongued, now looked at me like I'd brought a curse into her house. "You ruined your life," she whispered one night as I passed her in the hallway. "And you expect sympathy." I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But most of all I wanted answers. How could he say he loved me? How could he hold me at night, press his forehead to mine, whisper futures into my ear, and then vanish the moment things got hard? Then, the truth dawned on me like a slow, cruel sunrise. He didn't just leave me. He left what I had become. An inconvenience. Scandal. A responsibility. He wanted the version of me who laughed freely, wore red lipstick, and made him feel like the center of the world. Not the girl carrying his child. Not the girl who now needed him to grow up. He said he loved me. But now I saw. He hated what I represented. He loved the idea of me, not the woman I was becoming. And that truth cut deeper than any silence ever could. It was Mira who finally told me. We hadn't talked in weeks. She'd been quiet, distant like so many others. I assumed she was just another friend caught in the awkward middle. But one afternoon she showed up at my door. No warning. Just a knock, and then her face, pale and hesitant, on the other side of the screen. I shouldn't be here, she said. But I can't keep this to myself anymore. She sat at the edge of the sofa, hands clasped tight like she was holding something fragile and dangerous. And then she told me everything. Arif hadn't just ghosted me. He hadn't just blocked me. He had been talking. Spreading stories. He's telling people you trapped him, Mira whispered. That the baby wasn't even his at first. That you faked the whole thing to keep him from leaving. I stared at her, waiting for her to laugh, to say it was a joke, something pulled from a bad movie. But she didn't. He said you spiraled. That you showed up at your family's house just to shame him. To make him look bad. He's telling people you're unstable. The words sat in the room like smoke, burning, choking. He said that. I asked, voice barely above a whisper. She nodded. To everyone. He made you the villain. I don't remember standing up. I just remember the rush of heat behind my eyes, the numbness in my hands. The floor felt like it was tilting. This wasn't abandonment. This wasn't fear. This was retaliation. Arif wasn't ashamed of the pregnancy. He was offended by it. Enraged that I hadn't hidden it. That I had dared to return home with a growing belly, unashamed, not begging for secrecy or forgiveness. In his eyes I had exposed him. I hadn't called him out. I hadn't accused him. But simply existing, pregnant, visible, undeniable, was enough to humiliate him. And in his world, humiliation was a crime. So he punished me. Quietly. Efficiently. He erased me from his life and rewrote the story before I had a chance to speak. And people believed him. Because isn't that always the way? A charming man says a woman is crazy, and no one questions it. A woman says she's been abandoned, and everyone wants to know what she did. He said he was the victim, Mira added. That you broke him. That you were obsessed. I laughed then. Bitterly. Not because it was funny, but because there was nothing left to say. He wasn't running, I said aloud. He was retaliating. He didn't disappear out of fear. He disappeared because he thought I deserved to suffer. My pregnancy wasn't a symbol of love to him. It was a wound to his ego. And in his fragile world, the only way to heal was to destroy the person who made him bleed. There's a silence that settles after the last lie is spoken. It's not peace. It's the kind of quiet that feels like suffocating underwater. Still, cold, heavy. That's how the next few weeks felt. I barely left my room. I stopped answering messages. Not that there were many to begin with. My parents avoided me like I was an open wound they didn't want to acknowledge. The judgment in their eyes was louder than words. Because I had to. Leapt when I could. Mostly, I stared at the ceiling and let the grief wrap around me like a second skin. Questioned everything. Was I wrong to keep the baby? Was I selfish for thinking I could handle this alone? Was I foolish enough to believe he loved me? The spiral was slow. I'd wake up hopeful for a second, until I remembered. I'd open social media and see his life, perfectly intact, untouched by the chaos he left behind. He laughed in photos. Posted captions like, blessings all around. I was the storm and he'd found sunshine elsewhere. And for a while I believed him. I believed that I was the mistake. That I was something to run from. But then something shifted. It wasn't dramatic. No lightning bolt. Just one morning I found an old journal in the drawer. Half filled from another time. Scribbles of dreams, quotes I loved, plans I once made. On impulse I flipped to a blank page. And I wrote. He tried to erase me. But I'm still here. And I have life inside me. It wasn't poetry. It wasn't profound. But it was mine. From there the words didn't stop. Every morning I wrote. My pain. My confusion. My rage. And slowly lines of hope. Glimmers of what could be. Ideas I had buried under his shadow began to resurface. I started planning. Not revenge but resurrection. Doctor visits. Prenatal vitamins. I looked up housing programs, side gigs I could do from home, courses I'd once put off. I made lists. I tracked my progress. I even chose a baby name just for me. And in doing so, I remembered something he couldn't take. My worth. He tried to make me small. But the truth. I was building something bigger than he could ever comprehend. He thought I was broken. But I was becoming. And I made a promise to myself that day. He took his shot. He tried to ruin me. But he forgot I'm still breathing. I'm still creating. I'm still rising. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the start of the one I'd write myself. It started with a blank document and the question, what if I told my side? I stared at the blinking cursor for hours. My hands hovered over the keyboard, trembling with doubt. I wasn't a writer, not really. But I was a woman with a story. A woman whose silence had nearly crushed her. So I wrote. Not out of vengeance but out of survival. I didn't name him. Not once. I didn't need to. The story wasn't about him. It was about what betrayal feels like when you're carrying new life inside you. About how love, when poisoned by pride, turns into cruelty. I wrote about being abandoned, shamed, lied about. About being told I was trapping him, when all I had ever done was believe he'd show up. The words flowed from a place I hadn't touched in months. Honest. Unapologetic. I signed it anonymously. Hit publish on a personal blog I hadn't updated in years. I expected maybe a few reads, a comment or two. Quiet exhale. But the internet doesn't work like that. Started small, 1 share, then 10. A few reposts on Instagram. A comment thread that wouldn't stop growing. Within days, someone tagged a popular women's platform. Then a journalist reached out. Can we share your piece? It's powerful. It's needed. Still anonymous, I said yes. And then, everything exploded. Women began messaging me, hundreds then thousands. This was me. I thought I was alone. He told people the same lies. Thank you for saying what I couldn't. Strangers defended me more fiercely than people who had known me my whole life. And without ever dropping his name, people began to recognize him. The timeline, the photos, the phrases he'd used. It didn't take much. His polished mask began to slip. Mutual friends stopped responding to his stories. His gym stopped tagging him in promos. A woman he had recently started dating posted something vague and furious. I should have listened. His online presence went quiet. For a while I watched from the sidelines. Not gloating. Not vindictive. Just witnessing. Proof that truth, when told clearly and calmly, has a weight nothing performative charm can hold up. I never said, that's him. I didn't have to. He knew. And I'm sure the silence from others told him more than any accusation ever could. He sent me a message. One. Just one. Why are you doing this to me? I didn't reply. Because I wasn't doing anything to him. I had simply told my story. And for the first time my voice was louder than his. The irony wasn't lost on me. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I didn't retaliate in the way he probably expected. I just told the truth. And truth, I've learned, doesn't whisper when it's ready to rise. Echoes. It had been weeks since the post. Weeks since my silence shattered his illusion. Since I'd remembered the power of my own voice. Then, his name lit up my phone. Or if just a single message. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long time. Not out of longing, those feelings had withered. But curiosity. What did he want now, when I had finally moved on from needing anything at all? I replied short and clear. Public place. 1 hour. Cafe near the station. He agreed. I arrived early. Sat by the window. Watched the street, people passing by with their ordinary lives. My hand rested on the gentle curve of my belly. The life growing inside me wasn't ordinary. It was extraordinary. Not because of him but because I had chosen it despite him. Then he walked in. He looked smaller. Nervous. His eyes scanned the room and landed on me. Widened just slightly at the sight of me sitting calm, composed, whole. "Hey," he said, slipping into the chair across from me. His voice was careful, too measured. Like he knew exactly how far he had fallen. Waited. He began, rubbing the back of his neck. I panicked, okay? It was a lot. The pregnancy, the judgment. I didn't know how to deal. So I ran. And I'm sorry. I nodded slowly. Let the silence stretch. He shifted in his seat. Finally I spoke. I gave you the chance to stand beside me, I said, voice steady. To face this with me. You chose to stand against me. And not quietly, you lied. You turned your shame into my burden. He opened his mouth, but I stood up before he could speak. I don't hate you, I added gently. But you don't get to come back now that I've cleaned up the mess you left. I looked him straight in the eyes. Saw the apology, the regret, the fear of being truly seen. And I let it sit with him. Then I walked away. Belly full. Back straight. Dignity intact. He didn't follow. And for the first time I didn't look back. It's strange how silence can once feel like abandonment. And later like peace. Months have passed. I sit now in the soft morning light, my baby cradled in my arms, breathing softly against my chest. His fingers curl instinctively around mine, as if to remind me, you're not alone anymore. And I'm not. Life didn't get easier overnight. I had to fight. To find work that respected me. To carve out a space where judgment couldn't reach me. To learn how to ask for help without feeling ashamed. But I did it. Piece by piece. Some support came from unexpected places. A coworker who became a friend, an old teacher who offered guidance, even strangers online who reminded me I wasn't the only woman who'd ever been left, but still stood tall. I built a new life, not perfect but mine. A life where I could be strong and soft. Where I could be a mother without losing the woman I was becoming. Sometimes I think of him. Or if, not out of longing but clarity. He was a chapter, not the story. He thought my pregnancy would ruin me. Thought he could walk away and leave me crumbling. But what he gave me, unknowingly, was something he could never steal back. Purpose. And purpose made me powerful. More powerful than he ever imagined. More powerful than the shame, the gossip, the silence. I look down at my son, who opens his eyes just as the sunlight spills across the floor. This is where my story begins.